Good day, everyone. We are the Group 4 and we will discuss the small animal cancer internationally. The table of contents na itatakal natin sa aming report. First, the introduction. Second, status of small animal cancer. Third, cases internationally. And the last part is advancement in small animal cancer. Introduction. The study of small animal cancer has gained significant attention globally, as cancer represents a leading cause of morbidity and mortality in companion animals, particularly in dogs and cats. Increased awareness about the prevalence of cancer in dogs and cats has prompted a rise in research focused on understanding the underlying mechanism, improving diagnostic techniques, and developing effective treatment protocols. Also, the understanding of cancer biology progresses. Novel therapies and methodologies such as personalized medicine, immunotherapy, and advanced imaging techniques are increasingly incorporated into standard oncological care for small animals. This evolution in veterinary not only benefits animals directly but also contributes valuable insights applicable to humans, fostering a multidisciplinary approach to cancer treatment and research. Status of cancer in small animal. The status of small animal cancer on a global scale reflects a significant concern within veterinary medicine, underscored by increasing prevalence rates and advancement in treatments options. The increasing prevalence of cancer in small animals, especially among dogs and cats, is a global health concern. According to recent data, cancer has become the leading cause of death for pets, with around 4 million dogs and 4 million cats diagnosed annually in the US alone. It is estimated that approximately 47% of dogs over the age of 10 and 32% of cats will be diagnosed with cancer at some points of their lives. Here are some international cancer cases. Again, I am Epiphany Joseph A. Marudo, and this is the case study of transitional cell carcinoma in a canine patient. Transitional cell carcinoma is one of the most common urinary tract tumors in dogs, often affecting the bladder and presenting with clinical signs related to urinary dysfunction. Patient history. The patient was a 16-year-old spayed female Chihuahua weighing 2.5 kilo who was referred to the University of Tennis Veterinary Medical Center for evaluation of suspected bladder mass. The owners reported a 3-month history of hematuria where the dog had intermittent episodes of straining to urinate and excessive urination frequency. The diagnosis of transitional cell carcinoma was made through a combination of imaging and cytologic examination. The initial ultrasound examination of the abdominal region revealed thickening of the bladder wall with two masses located within it. A cystoscopic examination later confirmed the presence of multiple bothyroid masses along the dorsal bladder wall, and subsequent biopsy samples revealed neoplastic cells characteristic of transitional cell carcinoma. Then, the laboratory findings. The urinalysis has have a presence of blood or hematuria. Cytology examination of urine revealed a significant numbers of abnormal cells. Imaging, abdominal ultrasounds indicated thickening of the bladder wall with masses measuring approximately zero point 0.3 by 0.64 cm and 1.9 by 2.3 centimeter. The histopathology, biopsy confirmed the diagnosis of transitional cell carcinoma. Treatment. The treatment plan for the diagnosed transitional cell carcinoma is chemotherapy. The patient was treated with mitoxantrone administered intravenously every 3 weeks at a dose of 5 mg. Then, non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs or NSAIDs. Piroxicam was also administered orally daily at dosage of 0.3 mg per kg to help manage symptoms and potentially inhibit tumor growth. Then monitoring, a complete blood count and serum chemistries were performed periodically to evaluate the patient's response to treatment. Lastly, the prognosis. The prognosis of the patient was guarded. The average median survival time for dogs diagnosed with transitional cell carcinoma is typically around 6 to 9 months with appropriate treatment. As the dog was of advanced age and had significant health concerns, the actual survival time could vary widely depending on the tumor's progression and the dog's all over the health status. Unfortunately, the patient showed a decline in quality of life 5 months after the diagnosis, leading the owner to make the compassionate decision to euthanize.
So now let's talk about hemangiosarcoma. So they are the malignant tumors that originated from the cells that are lining the blood vessels, specifically the endothelial cells. And it is frequently affects the 5% of the cases of the malignancy. So nonetheless, the skin, liver, spleen, and heart are the most commonly affected areas. So the first signs and symptoms could be bleeding in the tumor in the liver and spleen. So depending on where the tumor is located as well, the symptoms can vary greatly and include fatigue, drowsiness, pale gums, and abrupt collapse. So in diagnosis, the diagnosis that can be done are chest X-ray and abdominal ultrasound. So with the help of these two diagnoses, it could be possibly detect the tumor and there can be a surgical tumor excision. So in treatment, the initial treatment would be surgery. So it's the primary method for the treatment. So after the surgery, there's a possibility that the tumor can spread onto the other parts of the body. So the post-surgery would be a standard chemotherapy, in which case it will compromise the medication doxorubicin or adriamycin given once every 2 to 3 weeks of total 5 of doses.
Osteosarcoma, the most common bone tumor in dogs, accounting for 85% of all canine skeletal tumors. While it is also the most common bone tumor in cats, primary bone tumors are relatively infrequent in feline population. Furthermore, osteosarcoma exhibits significantly lower levels of aggressiveness in cats compared to dogs. Osteosarcoma most commonly develop in the limbs but can also manifest in skull, rib cage, and spine. Rare form of this tumor may occur outside the skeletal system, affecting muscles, liver, or spleen. In dogs, osteosarcoma is notably aggressive, with 75 to 90% of cases eventually leading to metastasis, particularly to the lungs and other bones. In contrast, approximately 40% of cats with osteosarcoma will experience metastasis. Following signs may vary depending on which bone is affected but may include limping or lameness, swelling or bump on the affected bone, fracture with no known traumatic injury. If the tumor has metastasized, signs may also include breathing difficulties, weakness, and swelling of all four limbs. For diagnosing osteosarcoma, this includes X-ray, CT scan, and biopsy. Treatment depends on the location of the primary bone tumor, but most cases typically include surgery, chemotherapy, and radiation therapy. Most common treatment for osteosarcoma is amputation of the affected limb in order to minimize the risk of the cancer spreading. Amputation not only helps to control the tumor locally, but it provides pain relief for the patient. Best outcome for dogs with osteosarcoma includes treatment with both surgery and chemotherapy. The goal of chemotherapy is to delay the spread of osteosarcoma throughout the body. The most common chemotherapy medication used are carboplatin and doxorubicin. Optimal chemotherapy for feline osteosarcoma has yet to be defined. In dogs with other disorders that preclude amputation as a treatment for osteosarcoma, radiation therapy can control the pain associated with the tumor and improve the dog's mobility.
Infiltrative lipomas are very rare in dogs, but if they are seen, they are most commonly predisposed to middle-aged females. They usually appear on the chest and legs, and the breeds that are most at risk are Doberman Pinschers, Labrador Retrievers, miniature Schnauzers, and other mixed breed dogs. Infiltrative lipoma typically doesn't show clinical signs, but the owner may see appearance of solid mass in the area, and if that growth uh, is big enough, it may break the skin. This type of tumor is staged with blood work such as CBC, blood chem, and others that may be applicable, and then chest X-rays because they are more commonly found in the chest and legs. So X-rays and sometimes CT and MRI depending on the location of the tumor. Infiltrative lipomas are similar to how simple lipomas are cured or treated. It is through the surgery, but due to the infiltrative nature of the tumor, it invades the surrounding tissues or the tissues around it, such as muscle, nerves, and bones. If the infiltrative lipoma is seen in on the limb of the animal, it may mean that you have to amputate it because if you remove an infiltrative lipoma, you have to remove the tumor and the surrounding normal tissue around it.
Advancements in oncology in veterinary field. Throughout the years, veterinarians are struggling to treat cancer patients, especially here in our country. There aren't much of an improvement in this field. That is why it is a breakthrough in our field that other countries are having a big innovations in the field of oncology. Here are the few examples of medicines used in treating cancer patients. First is the robaxofosine injection, or the Tanovea. It is designed to target and kill canine lymphoma cells. It was conditionally approved in 2017 for the treatment of canine lymphoma and received full FDA approval in July 2021. This was the first treatment we had for canine lymphoma that was not a hand-me-down from human medicine. Tanovea certainly has the typical type of spectrum that you expect for a cytotoxic chemotherapy, with mild to moderate gastrointestinal and bone marrow adverse effects. Next is the toceranib phosphate, or the Palladia. It is the only anti-angiogenic, anti-proliferative therapy specifically developed for canine mast cell tumor treatment. The FBA pivotal study for Palladia was double-blinded and randomized with placebo control. The results showed there was an increased response rate and length of response with Palladia compared to placebo. Overall response was about 60% similar to the result delivered by multi-agent chemotherapy. Furthermore, we also know that Palladia can have activity against a variety of other tumors when used off-label. Lastly is the canine melanoma vaccine DNA, or the ONCEP. It is used to extend survival time in dogs treated for canine oral melanoma. The vaccine is produced with synogenic plasmid DNA that contains DNA for human tyrosinase, resulting in the production of human antigen that is homologous to canine tyrosinase, but it's recognized as foreign by the dog's immune system. Chemotherapy has poor efficacy against melanoma. In fact, some recent papers show that chemotherapy affords no survival benefit for dogs with melanoma. In oral melanoma cases, dogs typically present with stage 2 and stage 3 melanoma. Normally, those patients with standard of care treatment options such as surgery, radiation, and chemotherapy have 3 to 6 months to live on average. Thank you for joining us in this presentation. I hope you found the insights valuable and informative. Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and take care. Group 4 out.